welcome everyone. Welcome, Jose. I'm very honored to have a new guest on our show, which is Jose Conceição. José Conceição. And José is a machine learning engineer at Transperfect. In case you don't know, it's the biggest company in translation worldwide. So they're doing pretty impressive work. And Jose is one of the few people who work in this company in research and development. And actually recently you've got some award, which is the best machine translation solution according to 2020 AI Breakthrough.
Exactly, yeah.
So
great achievement, yeah.
Pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. So yeah, before entering the Transperfect team, Jose was studying engineering, electrical engineering, and then went, I would say, rather non-traditional way. You entered bootcamp in data science and got this job. So welcome, Jose. Welcome to our show. Yeah, before we start, I would like you just to explain what are you doing there in Transperfect? What does it mean, machine translation?
We're doing quite a lot of things at the moment, but mainly what we focus more is machine translation and creating models for our clients. And we have this product, which is a product that won the award. It's called the AI Portal, which is a tool kind of like Google Translate, and where we have like our custom models and we have a more like tailored like solution to our clients. It's more like a business-to-business thing. And apart from that, we do a lot of cool stuff. Read a lot of papers, like just, to be honest, it's just having fun to me. Like my boss tells me, oh, there's this cool thing I want you to check out, and I check out and I see if I can use it somehow. And if I read a paper, something that we can see that we can use to the company and bring some value, well, we try it out. Research and development.
Experiment a lot.
Oh yeah, that's basically all. That's all I do. Experiment, fail, and then like 5% of the time succeed. Yeah, it's a lot like that.
Well, and in terms of machine translation, is it very different from projects you were doing before, or what are the specialties of the field?
Yeah, like I've never worked with text before, so that was a change. But yeah, mainly regarding other like text tasks, it's text processing. It's just the only difference. It is quite different. There was some adaptation that I had to do, but mostly I guess the most difficult thing was to adapt to the domain and know all like the terminology. Because I remember my first day. I arrived and the guy was mentoring me was away for a week, and I arrived and I have like 3 academic papers and like a sticky note. And I just started reading them. I was like, I don't understand any of this. Like, I don't understand what's post-editing. I don't understand like what source, what start, what is like blue score you guys talking about. And yeah, it took a few months to get into like the whole thing. Like, I think data science is, of course, you need to have technical skills, but it's very like domain linked,
And like from your, let's say, insider information, or like you working in this team, how efficient is this machine translation algorithms that you develop? Like what kind of accuracy are we talking about?
Okay, so what I can say is that at the moment at our company we use like 60% of our total jobs we use MT, but we never use MT as like the thing we're going to deliver to the client. What we use is what is called like, so basically before there was this workflow, which was just human translation. You just get an English thing, you want to translate it to French, and the translator would have like a blank page and we just like write everything from scratch. Nowadays, what we're trying to implement with machine translation is called the workflow machine translation plus post-editing, which is basically the machine just spit out some text over the translation, and then the translator go there and kind of like edit it. So it just kind of provides as a skeleton for the translator to do their job, and I guess in a way to make them easier for them. It's more, we'd call it like a productivity tool, and not so much like a thing that we would never, for example, have a client ask for translating something. We'd never just like translate the whole thing with machine translation because it's very error prone. And normally like there's various steps to it. You have the machine translation one, then there's like a post-edit one, then there's a post-edit two, then there's like a final review. And all these incremental steps, they have different costs. So if you want to have the full workflow with the 5 verification steps, that's going to cost you a little bit more. Or if you just want something quick and dirty, you just have like a machine translation and just some post-edit, and there you go.
Do you think in one point in the future, machine translation will be like perfect without any need of intervention of human?
That is a good question, and there has been so many recent advancements in machine translation. Like, it's crazy. You can see on Google Translate how good it has gotten. Like, used to be trash. You couldn't use it, but nowadays it's actually pretty usable. And it has been like 10, 15 years since like this really started. Well, the big shift where you start to see like a very big difference in Google Translate, I think, was around 2012, because that's when they switched from statistical machine translation, which was like the old way of using machine translation, and they started using these neural models, which are a lot more effective to machine translation. And that's when you start to see more developments. And then, now very recently, in 2017, Google also released a paper called Attention is All You Need, which introduced this model architecture called a transformer, which is revolutionary in terms of NLP. And it just keeps getting better. So who knows what's the next architecture going to be? And to be honest, I have no idea. I think that's the fun part of it. Maybe I'm the one who'll find out.
No, it's very interesting as well that, normally, or at least I used to think that it's the data that makes the difference in accuracy of the algorithms. So we have just like incredible amounts of data. They only rise each year more and more. And this is what makes the algorithm better. But now you say, actually, it's a lot of value that provides, that these solutions provide actually lies in the architectures or how we develop the system.
It is very correct. And from my experience, there's a point where, you have more data, the model gets better, but there's a point where it flattens out. So the more data you add is actually not, I call it like the model cannot hold that many memory, And there's a point where you just put so much data and it doesn't improve more. The accuracy doesn't go up. So it's not just quantity, it has to be quality. Quality is crucial to have a good machine translation model.
You say it's about 60% accuracy, the machine translation?
Use 60% on all our projects. So I would say it's very dependable on like the language that you choose, and it's also very dependent on the content that you choose. It's not like, for example, we have general models that translate everything. But what we also have is called the vertical engines, which is basically tailored. So we just got data for hotels, and you just train a model with just data from hotels. And then if you're an hotel company, you're going to use that model to translate the content that you want. So it's very dependable, like the accuracy. I cannot give you like a full number, but I would say like, so it require like a 35%, 40% post-edit if it's a good model. Yeah, so let's say 65% of accuracy, even though accuracy is not a metric that we use, because it's actually very funny. It's very difficult to evaluate machine translation because, like you can say things in a different way. And we have metrics like the blue score, which like sees we have the target. So there's always source, target. So source is the text that you want to translate. Target is the result, the translation. So to calculate the metrics, you need to have the reference translation, meaning it was like translated by a real person. So your machine learning, your model translates, and then you compare those two. And the main metric, the automatic metric that people use is called the blue score. And it checks if the tokens or the words are similar, or not similar, if they are the same, But as you can see, when you translate something, you don't need to translate it word by word, or like there are two translations that are valid, but they could have completely different blue scores. So the only reliable way of measuring machine learning accuracy or performance is through human evaluation, which is quite expensive and it's quite difficult because you can also not have just one linguist evaluating it, because that just creates biases. So you just have minimum Yeah, in our team meeting, we do this cool thing where every month we talk. There's someone who brings a paper and we talk about it. And Anna, the machine translation implementation senior manager, she brought this paper about linguist evaluation. And according to that paper, to be honest and true assessment of the model, you need at least 3 to 4 linguists.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting that still we need a lot of human intervention in what it's machine translation, how it's called, but still you need, as you say, 4 humans to check it. And this is something very interesting, and I think it's important to point out this because, for example, in one of our episodes, we were doing research on whether AI is going to take over our jobs, and translation is an example which is often brought up because we say, yeah, look at Google Translate. They've got so much better because they basically gather data from people who translate, and then translators work on losing their jobs. But now you actually tell a whole different story. Would you, from your perspective, agree that is it true that translators are going to lose their jobs, or is it rather something which is not going to happen?
Well, it's definitely not going to happen soon, and I don't know, would you blindly trust a machine to handle like super important legal documents to like a company, to translation? Like, I wouldn't trust it. These models are good, but sometimes it's just like, we call it hallucination. Sometimes it's just like output garbage that doesn't even make sense. Yeah, I think we're quite far away from there, but I don't say it's impossible. There might be a day where, like, I was actually thinking about this on the way, when cars start to appear, and there were like the people with the horses, like the taxis of the horses, and the guys who sold horses, like, in a way, it was a big shift, and it was scary, and it was like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, these cars are going to take over. And, well, cars were more efficient. Machine translation is more efficient than a linguist. It took a little while until cars overcame and like became the norm. So I think it also will take some time until it will also take the norm. But you see, there's still chariots and there's still horses nowadays. They're just used in a different way, in a more, I would say, artistic way. And I guess that's where we should be going. Like, like when you translate a book, for example, like, you can, like, it's not everyone that can translate a book. You have to read a book. You have to know it very well in order to translate, to actually know not what the word is translating for, but what does that sentence mean? And how can you make it in your own language that is like captures the same essence that was in the original? And it's what they call, it's a form of art, But we are definitely progressing towards a future where I think a lot of the content that is needed, like, let's say, a manual or something, I think, in the future it would be possible. I don't know. I think it's as I say, it's something that's just making now translator jobs like a lot faster, so they can take a lot more jobs. And there's actually been research on this, because I asked my MT implementation team to give me some insights, and they say that actually, like, the translator's salary has stayed the same, or like even with inflation and all that stuff, like, it has stayed the same. Like, what happens is that they're faster, so they take more jobs and they get the same amount of money, instead of like getting more money by doing like the same project, but just taking a lot longer because they have to do everything from scratch.
So it increases the productivity, and basically,
for everyone.
But I guess the job as well has changed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same job of translation as before.
No.
How did it affect the translators' day-to-day work?
So basically, in our company, we do a lot of training to these translators. That we need to teach them how to use the models, or what models to use, or they're all certified by this new workflow, MT plus post editing.
That's pretty cool, because for me, the outcome of our episode about jobs and AI was that we're not going to lose jobs, because we're going to lose some jobs, but there are going to be many more created. but they're going to be different and more high skilled. And the question that I asked myself was basically, who's going to pay for this re-education, reinvention of people? So I think it's to me, it sounds very optimistic now that at least the company takes care of these people, of translators, to educate them to use these tools and increase the productivity. It's really cool.
Because there's a lot of fear, and if I was a translator, I would be scared and like, you have two choices. I've been thinking about it. You can either embrace what's coming or you can deny it. And then when it comes, you actually lose your job. Or you can just, you can adapt and see, okay, like this is changing. How can I stay relevant in the field? And I think that's what people should focus on and not so be afraid and say like, oh, I'm not going to use MT because you're stealing my job. Because it's not you as an individual that by stop using MT that makes it not progressing, like innovation is going to happen like as it always has. So we just have to stay up to date.
No, totally agree. And I think that's one of my personal values as well. And I think it's the value of the new age, the lifelong learning. You have to keep going, every day.
Even me, like I'm an AI engineer and like I have to keep learning every single day and I have to study a lot of things and like the things that I know now in 5 years are not going to be relevant. They're going to be probably ancient history, like for example, things in 2012 that used to be used, like they're still used, but not so much, And
another topic I would like to discuss with you is with someone from machine translation is there is an issue with that there are lots of languages underrepresented. So, for example, I imagine that English is used a lot. We have lots of data for English. We have lots of data probably for Spanish, for popular languages. But then there are minority languages which we have no data for. And with this amount of, you say as well that this increases productivity, so we have more content translated from one language to another. But these minority languages stay underrepresented. And if we're talking about sustainability, this is actually quite an issue because one of the reasons is if you want to really motivate people to take some actions and to change their lifestyle, to adapt to climate change, to educate people on different topics related to sustainability, like we need this approach which is personalized and customized to each culture. Like you say, you cannot just translate word by word. Maybe you need to give some examples which are irrelevant to other cultures, other languages, but for this particular language, they are very useful for understanding. And my question is, would you say that machine translation is going to help this issue, that some languages are underrepresented, or that it will rather increase the underrepresentation in the future?
So you're absolutely correct when you say that English is the most representative language, and you go and see all natural language process research is done with English, from information retrieval to whatever, sentiment analysis, all research is done in English. And it's quite funny. I remember when I first joined the company, my mentor back then, he was mentioning something about it. He was just saying all NLP research is in English, but then you actually go and try with another language and the results don't match up, which is quite funny. But the underrepresentative language, that is a very hard question. That is a question that, to be honest, I don't know actually. I don't know because I don't think it will help. I don't think it will also do anything because if there's no data, you cannot create a model. And if you cannot create a model, machine translation is irrelevant basically. If you have data, you can create a model, and maybe then it can help because then maybe you can create faster content. But you're mentioning from what I understand, you're mentioning these very edge cases where it's very little spoken languages. In that case, that would be you can't have a model. For example, you need to train a transformer model, which is the state of the art. You need a minimum 4 million segments. So if you get those 4 million segments and they're quality data, then yeah, you can create a model, you can translate, and maybe there will be more translation happening. But it's also market demand, and if there's no demand for those languages, what's going to happen? They're gonna die. It's the market controls everything, unfortunately.
Would you say that in order to change it, we just need more data for these languages? This would help.
Yeah, it would definitely help. Yeah, it would definitely help. It is market demand. The market controls everything. If there's demand for that to be translated, there will be data.
Well, it sounds similar to me. Like there are some projects now going on gathering data for Afro-American people, because what people found out is that recognizing white faces is very accurate. Or the algorithms work really well in recognizing white faces, and I think men even more than women. And then for Afro-American women, it just doesn't work so well. There are some projects even on gathering just gathering data from those people in order to include them into this tech revolution today.
Yeah, it's because we do create bias even when we feed our data to the model as much as we don't want to. We're just gonna, let's say 70% of our distribution is white people. So of course the model is gonna be more sensitive to white people. And if there's actually quite I remember seeing an article or a video about this. It was about how the police have the face recognition for a criminal event and stuff, and there'll be just random black citizens. They were just abiding citizens, and they would be called in by the police because they were identified as a burglar, just because, not because they were black, but because their model was telling them that was the person, but maybe just because he was black, It is it is a difficult question, because in the end these models, they kind of act on their own, no one is controlling us, except the only thing we can do is feed the right data. And but there have been a lot of work on that, I think, in trying to correct the bias more and more. A lot of advances in ethical AI. It's a big field now.
And actually you already managed a couple of points from that. Research and how the AI field is developing. Would you say you would be able to learn AI, machine learning, without knowing English?
When you told me, when you gave me this question, I started to think yeah, you can do it, but let's be honest. You can also go and cut trees with an axe, but you can also do it with a chainsaw. You're just gonna make your life a lot more difficult if you don't know English, because one thing is not just the documentation. First of all, programming languages were designed for the English language. You have the for loop, you have the ifs, and all everything is in English. So right from there, just knowing English will just give you an advantage, because for, I, in, do this. It makes sense, because it was designed that way. And we're not going to redesign all, there's not going to be Chinese programming language. There's not going to be Portuguese programming languages. That would be messy, There has to be a standard so everybody can come in and use the things. And if you can have documentation in different languages, and there are. But what about the error logs? Whenever you have an error, that thing's not going to come in Spanish. That thing's not going to come in English. Where are you going to search? On Stack Overflow, there is some answers in Spanish, but most of them are in English. So yeah, it's possible. I guess it's possible to do anything if you put your mind to it. But my recommendation is if you don't know how to speak English and you want to learn how to program, first of all, learn English, because it is a useful tool. You can do so much with English. You can travel, people will understand you. You can read, you can be more informed. And then you can start learning programming. People say it's a shame that the world is just all controlled by this English language. But in a way, I think it's also nice that there's a standard from which we can all communicate and exchange words. Imagine if there would be no English, I wouldn't be talking here with you, maybe, or you'd be talking in Spanish and having a very bad podcast. Because when we think about technology, we want as many people from the many different countries all working towards the same thing. And if they all speak the same language, that's just going to move things a lot faster and smoother.
Yeah. Well, it's never black and white, so for sure there are many pros as well to this thing that's happening. I mean, to me, it seems very imperialistic, but as well it has many, as you said, it has many advantages. Like, I believe we need a lot of cooperation between countries, especially if we talk about sustainability. Actually, I think at some point in the future, we just need one country. We just need to unite the world, and it's just gonna happen if everyone like assimilates to one culture, one language, which is decreasing diversity a lot. Yeah, and well, the last part of the interview, I would like to talk to you about your professional development, because you've had quite an interesting journey, and similar to mine, I think similar to many people who are currently developing understandings in machine learning. And you started machine learning with a boot camp. Is it correct? Yeah. And you also have a degree in electrical engineering and computation.
Electrical and computer engineering, yeah.
Comparing these traditional and non-traditional ways of learning.
And it was so refreshing. I'm even getting chills because it's so different. It's so much better, like, in a way. Like, of course, I do not undervalue the formal education. Like, I think my degree did wonders to me. I learned a lot of things. But the thing is, I had so much more fun with the bootcamp because I was actually doing stuff, like when you go to a class and you're sleepy, you're like, I just want to, you're like 30 minutes into, you try to be focused, but you can't. That would happen to me all the time in college, which just made me not go to classes. When it was the bootcamp, we had maximum classes of 30 minutes, and it would be just once or twice a week. And all you had was just you have this project, you have these guidelines, just do stuff. And it's very refreshing from the way the things are. And this is a world that's constantly changing and has changed so much in so little time. And we still use the old education way. And I think there should be an hybrid version, balance. Of course, you need formal education. You need to know theory, because with theory, you connect practical things, oh, I'm doing this practical thing here, this project, and then you're doing this project. Oh, maybe they're connected because I read in the theory that this happens because of this. And it's a way of connecting things, and it's important. But of course, what happened is when I finished my graduation, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything useful. I knew math. I knew a little bit of robotics. I knew a little bit of electrical engineering, computer science. I knew a little bit of something, but I couldn't. If somebody asked me to actually build something, I couldn't do anything.
The reason is because there were too little practical work. You didn't do any projects there?
We had a lot of practical classes. It's funny. I cannot explain why, but when I left and I started looking for jobs, I was because the practical classes that you'd have are to build up on theory and not what's actually used in the industry. You know what I mean? This is the word I want to use. It's very academic focused. Universities are designed for you to learn things that will progress you into becoming a professor or a research, and not the things that you do outside here in the real world. I wasn't prepared. And so what happened was, okay, I drop off my master's in robotics. I want to get a job. What do I do? And I didn't know anything. I was I can either learn on my own something, but I was in a foreign country. It was my first time away from Portugal, from my little town in Coimbra. So I was in Barcelona, and I was whoa, I need some structure. I need some support. I need some people who know what this tech thing is all about. They can point me in the right directions, and also a community. I had so much fun at WeWork. We the bootcamp was at WeWork. We had free beer afterwards. It was a blast. We'd code all day. We'd go have a beer. You made a lot of relationships. It's amazing. Yeah, I even fell in love for the first time in the bootcamp. So it's just wonderful stuff, it was very good. Because people sometimes also underappreciate these bootcamps. Oh, they're so expensive, and but it's also people. People are important to have people who are like on the same journey as you, and then they have like cohorts, so you don't start at the same time, so like people are in front of you, and then sometimes they help you, and it's a nice dynamic because it introduced me to, was kind of having like an internship that I was paying for, basically. That's what I normally call it. Like it's like an internship that I paid to do. Yeah.
Wow. No, it's so true. Like I couldn't agree more on that. And like to me, I decided not to go the traditional way because I think it's just not for me personally. It's too theoretical. You don't do real stuff, like you say. But at the same time, it's super hard. And yeah, sometimes it's so frustrating when you if you sit alone in your room and studying the whole day in front of a computer and you don't know why your model doesn't work and you try to search on Stack Overflow and all the forums and then maybe it works out and you make a lot of progress in this day, or maybe you spend 1 week working on just one little issue which is like seemed so unimportant in the beginning. Yeah, and one other thing which is so true is I think the community, because like now I'm starting to build up a study group for courses that I'm doing, because alone is just impossible and it's not fun.
I remember when I was in the bootcamp, we were like a cohort. We were like on the same chip, like like most of us didn't know what we were doing. It was like it was hard. A lot of people didn't even know how to code. I knew how to code a little bit, but a lot of people they had no idea what code was. So they all were lost, and there was like so much new stuff, and like just the fact that you have somebody that's confused with you makes you feel a little bit better than just like being like alone in your house. It's just like looking at this huge Stack Overflow answer. They're like, oh my god, I need to read all of this. And it's just it's more efficient because you have another pair of eyes who can just, instead of being stuck, as you told, for a week trying to solve something alone, there's just this buddy of yours just can, you can actually do this, and like does 2 lines of code. And this has happened to me. I've built like scripts that are like a code like like 100 lines long, and then like this colleague of mine, this is actually at work, you just do a regex that would do everything that my script does in like 2 lines of code, And it's nice then when people introduce you to new stuff, new ways of thinking. I was like, oh, damn, actually, this was so much easier than I thought. It's not that the work you did before wasn't good. Like, you just learn there's always a better way of doing things. Yeah. And, I don't know, like having people around you, it's super important. We are social beings in the end, right?
Definitely. And how do you continue to educate yourself now?
There was a period in my life where I was like very intense about it. When I started my job, I was like studying a lot. This quarantine was crazy. I was coding a lot. I was working. After work, I was doing online courses and doing on my own projects. Basically coding like 10 to 12 hours a day. So now taking a little break from coding so much, like I do my work. Sometimes I work a little bit more. I was also working a lot at like during quarantine. That's when I started like with the chatbot project. I was like all excited. I was like, I want to do this. And now taking it a little bit slow, but I do online courses, watch YouTube videos, read books. I like reading books. But most importantly, the way that you learn is not by doing these massive online courses. Because what happens is I kind of fell into this trap that was like, I'm going to do this course, and I do this course, I learn this skill. But it's not really true. You don't learn the skill by doing a course. You learn the skill by doing the course, and then you apply that thing you learn in real life. And it's just not once. It's like it has to be prolonged way, because otherwise, I fell into that trap. I was just like, let's learn backend, let's learn Linux, let's learn whatever, and I just kept going and going and going, and I was crazy. And then I realized that I wasn't using the things that I was learning. And as I was learning new things, I was just forgetting about the old stuff. Because you don't use them on your day-to-day life. And if you don't use on your day-to-day life, like, of course, it's not that I've forgotten everything, but just you won't be able to do anything productive with it. Yeah. So I guess I follow this motto of a guy that I follow online. It's called Need to Nerd Basis. And it's basically, you just learn stuff like if you do actually need to use it. If you don't need to use it, like well, why are you learning it? Okay, like it's cool, like you can spend a little bit time of that, like investigating, but yeah, just don't just like nerd out just because it's cool. I want to learn this. I want to learn this because in tech it's impossible. You cannot learn everything. It's unending and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I was so confused. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to learn backend. I want to learn making websites. And now I just, if I need to learn something at my work, that's basically it's better at your work because then you're actually being productive. Because you want to learn something so fast, everything so fast and so quickly, and you can't. You can't. Things take time. It takes time for your brain to adapt to the things you're learning. And don't for people who are trying to get into data science, don't fall into the trap of just trying to learn everything at once. It's not going to work. Just find something let's say, okay, right now I'm focusing on Python pandas because, that's like the basic thing. And, become really good at it. And when you become really good at it, and because you're going to use it, you always need it, then, maybe find something, find another thing. Like, okay, let's learn SQL. But only learn it if you are actually using it somehow.
No, it makes total sense. And I think this is also something which differentiates from the traditional education where you learn the basic. You don't start with deploying deep learning models with, I don't know, LSTM. No, you start with the history of...
Everything has to come before that. It's it's a pyramid. You don't start building a pyramid by the top.
Yeah, exactly.
The top is the neural networks and all that thing. It's the top of the pyramid. You were the one who actually told me that this thing, the pyramid thing, right? The AI is at the top.
Yeah. Data science.
Of data science. Yeah, you don't build a pyramid by the top. You build it from the bottom. So you build your foundations, your stuff, and then you keep building and building. But don't try to rush. Because that's a personal thing. I try to rush. I try to learn as fast as possible. You end up just burning out. You become not happy. You have like, fuck, I don't know anything. I'm so bad at this. Take things slow. I've been like a programmer for like a year and 3-4 months. It has not been that long. I cannot expect myself to be better than people that have been programming for 20 years. It's time. They've been doing this for so long. And it's consistency with everything in life. Like as you work out as well. Sometimes when you start workout, you just want to work out and work out and work out and get stronger. But what normally happens, and with all this dieting and stuff, you keep going super hard. Then you just get tired and you just stop. Yeah. It has to be consistent. Consistency is like the ultimate weapon for life.
I think it's a great advice. And this is something I figured out as well. Because I've been doing, 10 hours a day. And then I realized, no, it's just not working like that. So actually now I'm just trying to do 4 hours max, but really concentrated. And it works much better because then you have also more free time to, just to live, not to work. And also, it's so life-changing.
This is very important. This is related more to work hours. There's a lot of people that they're like, oh, I work 10 hours a day. I work 11 hours a day. And I used also to be working a lot of hours, more than my hours. But then you start to think I'm working these 11 hours, but are these 11 hours really productive hours? Or the fact that I know that I'm going to work overtime just makes me slack more during the day? Because if you set yourself to I'm just going to work 8 hours today, and you have stuff to do, you're going to do them. You're going to be fast. You're going to be you're going to be attentive. If you know that oh, whatever, I can work a little bit late, you're just going to you're not going to be focused. It's not going to be productive work. And what happens is you're wasting time, wasting time for the company, wasting time especially for yourself, which is the most important thing. You could be having fun, you could be happy, and when you're happy, you're more productive. So there's a lot of this culture of working super long hours, and there's nothing wrong with working super long hours, but I feel that there has to be balance. Of course, there are days that if I need to work 10 hours or 12 hours, I'll work because there's a deadline or something. But over the long run, if you do this every day, it's not gonna be good for anybody involved.
Actually, for not only for data science, for anybody. So last thing I would like to ask is what you're working on right now, and if you need any help, and how can people reach out if they can help you.
I don't need help with anything. I'm actually very good at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. Just be happy, guys. That's helping me. Can find me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay. That has been a pleasure, Jose.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. See you on Monday on yoga.
All right, that's it for today. We can wrap up like this. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And in case you have any queries or anything to ask Jose, I'll put the link to his LinkedIn in the description. So what do you think? Leave us some comments, some thoughts, and see you in the next one.